Hi, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Paul's Treehouse. My name is Paul Siegel, and I just spent an hour trying to put her to sleep. It's like this every night. It happens at around 9 o'clock every night. She goes from being completely at ease and happy and peaceful to all of a sudden just being completely frustrated and sad and angry, and it's become clear over the past few weeks that this is just her being tired. You know, one of the things you have to do as a parent is kind of decode what it is that's actually bothering the child. But it's interesting to observe that she herself doesn't seem to know what her feelings mean. So sometimes we can tell that she's crying because she's hungry, and my life partner Rebecca offers her to have some milk, and she's still crying and she's still agitating, and it takes her a while to kind of realize, oh, I want this, and she calms down. And I've been thinking a lot about feelings in general lately and what they are, because especially in the realm of public discourse, there are many people who make, and even privately, just among friends and family, there are a lot of people who make emotional cases, emotional arguments to justify a particular belief, a particular opinion, a particular idea or ideology. And I really think it's important to draw a distinction between logic and reason and emotion. There's a famous philosopher that once said, emotions are not tools of cognition. And this was said by Ayn Rand, whose philosophy was largely informed by witnessing the terrors of socialism and how it tore her family apart. And I think a lot of what is informing that thought that she wrote down about emotions not being tools of cognition is probably largely having to do with her just being in general upset about how so much political policy is driven through emotional arguments. But really the main thing I want to try to get into is I want to offer this new paradigm for understanding what a feeling actually is. In my opinion, this is what I've come to learn just through my own internal exploration and through witnessing the emotional states of this child and also of those around me, my loved ones. That emotions are actually more a reaction than something in and of themselves that actually exists. I find this to be a really important thing to dissect, because there is an epidemic of depression right now in the world, and this can be measured by simply looking at the statistics on prescription drugs being sold in the area of anti-depressants. It's just going up and up and up, and this is really tragic to me, because I don't think they work, at least not in the way that you would want to address the problem. So right now, medicine suggests that you're depressed because of a chemical. When you're clinically depressed, you're depressed because of a chemical imbalance in your brain, that your chemical is not providing enough of this or enough of that, or is deficient in this or that. And I think that is to an extent a true observation, that your chemical state can be measured. I mean, your emotional state can be measured by looking at the chemicals that are being released by your brain and the rest of your body. But to say that the reason you're depressed is because the chemical states are the way they are, I think is an erroneous way of looking at the problem. It's kind of like saying, well, you have some sort of skin problem, and we have these topical creams that we can put on them to help it subside a little bit, without ever thinking about, well, what's going on inside that's causing this symptom to emerge? What is going on inside the person that's causing the chemical imbalance? We always seem to look at things from the outside in. We don't really seem to look at the things from the inside out. And everything in life emerges from inside out. Nothing is fashioned, you know. I think our perception of the world has been largely perverted by certain ideas and mythologies having to do with creation being fashioned by a creator from the outside in. But really all of life, it comes from the inside out. It emerges, it blossoms, it sprouts, it grows. And so I think whenever we look at diseases, be they of the body, of the mind, we have to go deep. We have to go deeper still and peel away the layers and go in and find out what is really at the root of this symptom that we're picking up on. So what I've observed fundamentally is that emotions are like volume knobs that can be turned up or low. So we all have the potential for expressing or experiencing every single emotion, be it happiness, sadness, anger, frustration. And these would be like a volume knob. Imagine having one volume knob for anxiety. Well, what happens if that volume knob is turned all the way up and all the other ones are turned down? Then the individual who is experiencing that particular chemical state is going to look at their entire environment through that particular lens. And everything that could potentially be a source of anxiety, no matter how small, is going to be amplified to a great extent. So that is the mechanism by which our emotions cause us to interact with the world. And I think this is why Ayn Rand said that emotions are not tools of cognition. But I actually disagree with her partially, because I think emotions can tell us something very profound about ourselves. But let me finish the first thought though, which is that, okay, so emotions can be cranked up or cranked down. And whatever is leading to certain emotions being higher than others is really the question. Is it a chemical imbalance, or is the chemical imbalance simply consequential to those volume knobs being turned up and some being turned down? So let's look at a very simple example. Imagine a fictional story, whether it be written or on film, that is very emotional. It's an emotional roller coaster to watch this movie. And by the end of it, you find yourself completely just overwhelmed. It could be you're overwhelmed with sadness, with anger. There have been films and there have been books that have roused people to such an extent that they've revolted and become activists and wanted to inspire political change in their nation. This is why famously the Nazis burned many, many books, because ideas and stories can really be powerful in that way. But you even see it in movies today. A completely fictional story, people can be completely motivated by a particular story or saddened by a particular story, even if that story is completely fictional and made up. So therefore, the emotional state in an individual can definitely be manufactured. And that's what's dangerous about feelings, is that they're very powerful motivators to have a particular action, to take a particular action, but they can definitely be manufactured by some external event, some external activity, a creative entity of some kind, like a story or a movie. And so, given that emotions can be easily manufactured, we need to really understand our feelings and what they are and how they work. And this is why I really want to talk about this. It's, in my opinion, it's not really being talked about with any amount of seriousness. The media actually plays on this phenomena that people's emotions can so easily be controlled, manufactured. And you see this plainly with the way certain shots are framed, how certain videos are edited. I actually knew somebody who worked in media and had all sorts of interesting stories that she wanted to talk about, but the management would just constantly be declining the stories that the reporter wanted herself to report on. But the only ones that would go through were the ones that management wanted to go through, which is unfortunate, because it means that there is some sort of selection process going on that is, to an extent, either catering to an existing demand or trying to generate appetite for a specific demand. Okay, so with this example, we clearly see that emotions can be manufactured through an external device of some kind. But that's why I think Ayn Rand said that emotions are not tools of cognition. But here's where she's wrong. What if those emotions are not manufactured? What if those emotions are truly, genuinely your feelings having to do with nothing external, but completely internal? And this is where we start seeing people being diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and all sorts of conditions of the mind, as we call them, that there are prescription drugs for. And all the drugs do is they go in and they supplement your chemical state with the chemicals that your body is not producing and inhibit the chemicals that you're producing too much of. But why are those chemicals being produced in that way? That's the question we're not asking. Why is it that you are in a state of anxiety? Why is it that you're in a state of depression? And I think what's been happening a lot lately is there's such a lack of truth, such a lack of genuineness and authenticity, that people have gotten to the point where they lie to themselves and they let things go by day after day, things that really bother them, and they turn a blind eye to it. And it could be something small, it could be something minute, it could be something that is just part of your day-to-day life. Maybe it's somebody you live with, maybe it's somebody that you work with, maybe it's a friendship. There's like a little tiny thing that you're not addressing, something that's bothering you, but you just accept it and you let it be, and you just try to get over it, but the truth is you haven't. And these little things, they build up, in my opinion, over time, and it changes your the state of your being, and with that changes your chemical state. So in that sense, emotions are actually reflections. They're mirrors. Specifically emotions that are born from within us, not necessarily manufactured by an external device. Kind of like dreams are this way, where if you have a dream, you may not be able to really see its meaning, because it's such a reflection of your current condition that you need somebody else to kind of interpret it for you, who can see things a little bit more plainly. I think emotions are very much like that too. They're little reflections that are telling us, hey, you're experiencing anxiety, and you've been experiencing anxiety for many days now. It's time to not look at the way this volume knob is turned up and just amplify everything in your environment to be seen through anxiety. It's time to try to get control over that feeling, turn the knob down so you can see clearly, and go deep inside and review your day. You start with today, review yesterday, review the week, review the year, review the past 10 years, and see if you can figure out what is it that over time is building this level of anxiety in your life. And I think that is ultimately the best path to take to help yourself get through depression, get through states of anxiety, fears of particular things. I think it's all about going inward, and emotions really are just a little like a dream. Their emotions aren't really real in and of themselves because there's something that precedes them. Our emotions don't begin out of their own volition. Our emotions are a reaction, they're a symptom of something that's going on very, very deep. Sometimes not very deep, but we're so good at turning a blind eye to the things that bother us and just choose to accept things that all we really have to do is just be a little honest with ourselves, and you'll be surprised how much stuff you find and how much stuff you uncover that you've just been sweeping under the rug. And that rug is so bumpy right now that all you really have to do is look in there and see the things that you haven't been addressing and dealing with. So in that sense, emotions are definitely tools of introspection and self-knowledge. They may not be tools of cognition because they cloud our vision, and that when those volume knobs are turned up, we do not see things clearly as they really are. We see things in a manner that justifies the emotional state that we're in. And so the trick is to take a deep breath, try to turn those volume knobs up or other ones up, and try to see things a little bit more clearly within ourselves and find out what is the root of all of this. Just like when we look at a dream and we realize, oh, that means I'm anxious about this or I'm afraid of this. Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. No wonder I'm having a dream about that. And so emotions may not necessarily be tools about how to assess the world and decisions to make about the world, but they can definitely tell us a lot about how we are actually feeling about our life and different aspects of our life. So I thought this was a message worth sharing. If you have any thoughts to share, agreements or disagreements, or things to add to this, please leave it in the comments. I would love to hear. Thank you. Bye.